more kedusha than you need. So I'm going to take it.
You want me to leave?
One word of wisdom. One word of wisdom is all we ask for. Oh, from you maybe.
Wait a minute. Literally one word.
One word. Chachma.
Ah, there it is.
Very appropriate word of wisdom.
I know it's much stronger than it's like
When on days when they did long tachan in the yeshiva, did everybody stand during the whole?
Everybody but me.
Well, you've got leg problems.
Well, I'm saying, I mean, the boys, of course.
But they stood through the whole long tachan.
Of course.
Okay.
I mean, they stood through all of Psukei Tezimra.
True, that I understand.
Well, Tachanan is Psukei Tachanan, you're really supposed to stand.
Right. No, I'm not questioning whether they did or not. I question the fact. I'll go into it with you another time.
I'll tell you the greatest thing when they daven very slowly.
I'm sure.
And on Rosh Hashanah, they mamish left a half hour for Musaf Shmona Esrei on the clock. So the ninth graders would come and they'd be finished Shmona Esrei in 10 minutes. And they'd have this big smile. Oh, I'm faster than all these guys. And then 15, 20, 25, they start looking in other people's machzarim. What are these guys saying
that I missed? Huh? All right, we're going to have a few people out today. Some guys are sick.
I don't need to.
The COVID?
What? I'm wiping up the table.
All right, I'm going to.
What?
Go.
Marty.
Everybody's sick.
Marty is
Mel
here.
and Eileen have COVID.
They do?
Hashi has COVID.
Zev has COVID.
Zev has COVID. Half the island have. My Thanksgiving dinner, I think, is down to you and me. No, not love. I don't think we're having a full complement.
Right.
Really.
Okay, learning sponsors. I'm going to get us started, and hopefully Marty and anyone else. I know his.
Two things I listen to have a
Okay. Learning sponsors. Year of Learning, Friends of Malaskotsky, Moshe Zelig Ben Mordechai, Martin Lipman and family in memory of his wife, Malka Chana Bat Pinchas. Now he's not down. He usually comes. Friends of Herb Jeremiah, Tzvi Ben Zeb. Friends of Sam Coleman, Shmuel Ben Yaakov. Friends of Gideon Lazinski, Mordechai Shlomo Ben Meir, Bella and David Adler in memory of her father, Eliyahu Ben Yosef Cohen. Those who were inspired by Rebbetzin Emerita Sheila Shapiro, Sarah Esther Malka Bat Meshulam Yisachar, Gail and Leslie Kaplan in memory of their parents, Mushka Sprinz Bat Yosef Chaim Bechava, Hanan Ben Moshe Eliezer Vechana, Pesha Bat Shmuel Yitzchak Alevi Betzipora, Isra Ben Yoel Moshe Cohen Vechana, Rexford Friends of Gladys Sherman, Gutta Bat Meir, Michael Klein and Friends of Judah Klein, Yehuda Tzvi Ben Chaim, Marsha Brana in memory of her husband, Harav Yerachmiel Ben Shmuel. A Month of Learning by Charlie Gelfenstein in memory of his mother, Dacia Gilbad Meir Halevi. Also by Charlie Gelfenstein in memory of his father, Meir Ben Yaakov, by Ruvain and Susan Podolsky in memory of his mother, Freila Bat Shraga Feivel. A Week of Learning by Marcia Federbush in memory of her father, Menachem Mendel Ben Shlomo, by the Friends of Bernie Krutz on the occasion of his second bar mitzvah. Today we have a day of learning by Marilyn and Eugene Melaniak in memory of her father, Shmuel Ben Binyamin, by Shmuel and Fran Lightman in memory of his mother, Chaya Miriam Bas Yosef Leah, by Walter and Leona Friedrichs in memory of his late wife, Sarah Bat Chaim Yaakov, and by Gigi and Robert Stein in memory of her sister, Chana Sarah Bat Shlomo Chaim. Hashem is having a Aliyah, crank Rafi about the Yeshua Shem Atzliach, Omer Ein Shal Big Ben Shah.
Amen.
Where's Marty? That's what I heard. Yeah.
Oi,
I don't know.
what happened?
I don't know what
You don't know anything other
other than
than
that.
what's wrong.
He wasn't feeling well. His wife called him Tzala, and they came, or
Why did she call her Tzala?
as opposed to who?
The local one. They're here in 2 minutes. Tzala is 25 minutes.
I don't know. Anyway, that's maybe we should. for whatever reason, they couldn't determine for sure what it was, and so they brought him to the hospital. That's what I,
Beretsky is still in there.
Okay. Rabosai, like I said, this is a magnificent page and loaded beyond loaded. And a number of the cases are incredibly argued, you understand? So we're going to try to say a simple reading of those. Certain cases also don't have a simple reading. Some of them. Okay. We're right at the very top of Chaf Amara, the very, very top. Ahu Barcha, there was a certain goat. The Chazal lift up Huma Dana. It saw they translated as turnips, but believe me, we don't really know. They translated as we saw turnips on top of the thing. Sarich Salik, so it grabbed the hold of the barrel, okay, and it climbed up. Lifta, it ate this vegetable, and then it broke the barrel. Rava Alifta, so he made him pay full that's extremely pay full damages for the vegetable and for the barrel. My time, why should he pay full damages for the barrel? It's strange for a thing. Breaking a barrel should be like what? Should be like Karen, like Goring, should pay half damages. It says came lifta, since it's normal for it to eat the vegetable, it's also normal for it to grab a hold and climb up and break the barrel, and therefore you're going to pay full damages. It's all part, and you could argue, by the way, that the damages for the barrel are called regel, are called trampling. Obviously, it's not eating. Amr Ilfa, not who obviously you can argue. Amr Ilfa said the following. Now, the behemoth Rishus Rabbi. Let's say there's an animal walking in the public domain. It stuck its neck out and it ate from let's say the produce that's on the back of another animal. Chayeves, okay, you have to pay, okay, to pay full damages because of eating. Now, 1 second. How could that be? He's gonna ask my time. He says rhetorically, why am I doing that? 1 second. Isn't that eating in the public domain? And eating in the public domain is what? Is exempt. He says no, Gabi Chaberta. No, because vis-a-vis the other animal, since he's eating from the other animal's back, even though it's standing in the public domain, it's like he's eating from the private domain, and it's considered eating in the private domain. Lema Messiah. 1 second. Now that itself is a very controversial point. He said it, and those I could argue. When a person's standing, when the animal's in the public domain, eating off the back of the other animal, can I say that what? It's obligated for eating the private domain. It's standing in the public domain. He says, Lema Messiah says what? Messiah, maybe I can support Ilfa and show you that eating out of the basket or out of the container is really like eating in the private domain, even though the animal's in the public domain, because we learned. He said, okay, we have a brisa. Isa kupas Moshel Sachrov. A guy's container was to the back, his box, his basket. And the animal stuck out its neck and ate from the container. Chayebes, it's obligated to pay what? And now we're understanding you have to pay full damages like shame. Okay, that's what we're understanding. You're paying full damages like eating. So that seems to be a support for Ilfa, that that's called eating in the private domain. Gemara says, nah, that's not it. It's like Rabba said, but kofetzes means it's standing up. In other words, it's jumping up, it's standing up on his back legs, so to speak. Hachanami, what he said that in another case, which you'll see in a minute. Hachanami here too, but kofetzes. No, you have no support. It could be what Elfa said is true. It could be, but over there you could say no. I could say you're not forced to say it from the Bryce, because the Bryce could be really where what? Right, we're going to see that it really exactly that it really did something strange, because it did that, and when it said you pay, you're not paying full damage. You're making a mistake. You thought the Bryce is paying full damages for eating the private domain. No, it's paying half damages for doing something strange, for jumping up and eating in the public domain, or wherever it is. So it doesn't have to be, even though the Bryce doesn't prove his point. I says the Gemara, where did Rabba say, where was the original source when he talked about an animal jumping up? Our heart was about this. The Amar Raboshi said the following. The Hemer Shisarabim was an animal in the public domain. It went and it ate, whether it was barley or vegetables, Patura, it's exempt. Why? Because it's eating the public domain. Now this is a funny word. The omed in Hebrew is a funny word. Why? Because omed could be standing still, or omed could be standing. It's a very important word. Right. Omed is either right. Omed either means being stationary or standing up. Now they're two very different points. Now the way we're reading now, if it stood still and ate, it's obligated to pay full damages. What's going on? I understand. Walking is its normal way, and you told me that it doesn't pay. Okay, if it's standing still, that's also normal. Animals stand still. Why all of a sudden are you paying for paying for eating in the public domain? Rava, no. The kofetzes, you're making a mistake. The word amda doesn't mean it stood still. It means it stood up. It's jumping up. Instead of saying it put itself erect. And therefore what? And since it's abnormal for the animal to do that, okay, it's paying what? It's paying, like we said before, it's really goring, and it's paying half damage. So you have that's what he was talking about. Why Rabbi says so? Now we really can't. We haven't really proven the point one way or another. Alpha said it, but we didn't prove it. Why Rabbi Zera asked the following problem. Misgalgama, when the animal is nudging, is rolling the produce from one domain to the other, what is the halacha? The Gemara is explaining. What do you mean? What's the case? Kagon the kaima omir. Okay, let's say you have some kind of produce or straw. They say all kinds of things. Yeah, which is a yachid. It's in the private domain, but you're thinking of pieces like a private domain. Becomes galvati, but it rolls it into a meshus yachli shitsurabim, and the animal rolls it from the private to the public. What's the law? Should I follow the place where it came from, and it's like the private domain he has to pay, or no? Should I follow where he eats it and eat in the public domain and he doesn't have to pay? So the Gemara says, listen, let me try and bring you a proof. Toshma, come up bring you a proof. The Tani Rabbi Chia, because we learn Masoi, okay, if you had, for example, any kind of container, burden, okay, mitzasa bifnim, it's full of barley, let's say, mitzasa bifnim, mitzasa b'chutz, part of it's in the private domain, part of it's in the public domain. Achla bifnim, okay, if it ate the barley that's inside the private domain, chayavis, he has to pay achla b'chutz, but if it ate outside patura, it's exempt. My lab, what's that talking about? Misgalgabati, isn't it talking about it rolls it from one place to the other? Nevertheless, we said, no, I don't care where the origin was, it's wherever you eat it that matters. If you ate it in the private domain, you pay. You ate it in the public domain, you don't. The person said, nah, that's no proof. Why? It says Ema, because I could say what the Bryce is talking about. Achla, when it said that inside, it says Almasha b'fnim. It's talking about eating the part that was inside. Chayeves, you have to pay. Why? Because that chain. The Almasha b'chutz ptura. And what if it ate the part that was outside? Right. If it ate the part that's outside, it is exempt. Okay, so therefore, it's not that we follow the eating. It's on the contrary, we're following the source. If you ate the part that was inside, you're obligated. Wherever you ate it, you ate the part that was outside, you're not obligated. Okay, so therefore, what? So we really follow. It's the other way. You prove the opposite point that you follow the origin and you don't follow the eating. So Gemara says, I say more alternatively, I could say like this: the brisa is really, I guess I could understand it the way you said it originally, but it's still not the point. It's really talking where what, okay, that if you eat it inside, you're obligated on everything, and when you eat it outside, you're exempt on everything, and you still don't know that you follow the place of the eating. Why? Okay, but when he said this law in the brisa, the psila das pasta, this is talking about a type of plant that has very, very long. If you pull a little, if you drag it, it's as opposed to little pieces like grains. We're here. The part that's inside is inside. The part that's outside is outside. But this one, what is one long piece, one long strand, like a friend of mine told, like alfalfa, for example. Alfalfa. He told me. I grew up in Texas. One of my chaverim. So he said alfalfa apparently is a very deep growing. Yeah.
6 feet.
Yeah, gigantic. So he says, you have a long thing, and therefore what? Since it was originally part inside and outside, okay, so when it brings it inside or to the outside, okay, it's always dragged together with it, okay, okay, and therefore what? We can always say that it was always there, okay, and therefore Rabbi Chia said that you follow the place of the eating, but that when do you follow the place of the eating? Because it was really this long strand, you understand? That was long strand. But when it comes to grains, where one part is not dragged after the other, there we're still in doubt whether you follow the source or whether you follow the eating. Now,
some part of this, like the page before, if she walked and ate, she's not right. But if she's
yeah, but that was a problem in the public domain. This is a problem of knowing where we are. There was a problem of we're in the public domain. Is it eating in the public domain, which is exempt, or is it called eating in the private domain, even though it's in the public domain, or is it called malicious damage in the public domain? Sometimes eating is malicious damage, a third category.
she stood still.
So over there, that piece that was debated what it means. It's simply the way we concluded. It meant that it jumped up in an abnormal way and ate, which is like a malicious damage, and therefore it paid half damages. That's what we concluded.
Well, it doesn't have to be malicious.
No, I'm just using. So that remember I'm just using that word because we say both things about Karen. We say what that it's different and what
that it doesn't get
no, and we say also kavanah lahazik. That's why I use the category. Okay, now achluksus. What happened? We learned in our Mishnah something strange. Now, you know what? It's worth it. Take a minute, please, and look back on the previous page. Look at the Mishnah. I'm going to read you the words, and again, we have a comma problem. It says Ketzad, we're going to eat what's normal eating. He says Hashem mu'edus lechol asarorilo. The tooth is forewarned to eat what's fitting. Habehema mu'edus, the animal is forewarned lechol peris v'yirakos, like a cow is forewarned to eat fruits and to eat produce and vegetables. Achlok suso kalim, but if it ate, let's say a garment or utensils, which is abnormal, it's not food. Mishal chatinezek, you pay half damage because that's what we call Karen. What we call like intentional malicious damage is half damages. Now it says, watch, it qualifies. Now we just had two cases, but it says when is that true? When do you have to pay in the private domain? But in the public domain, you're exempt. But if you get benefit, you pay what you benefit. So now remember, when you told me that in the public domain you're exempt, you had two cases. One case was what was eating normally, and one case was eating abnormally. You told me in the private domain, so eating normally, you pay full damage. Eating abnormally, you pay half damage. Then you said in the public domain you're exempt. Which cases are exempt? Both eating how much is exempt and how much do you pay? Which cases is it talking about? No, look at now back to our Gemara. Let's take a look. Achluk sus, it said what he ate from the garment, etc. Ahai, when you said to me that you're exempt in the public domain, are you talking only about eating in the public domain? Okay, like we said, or are you also talking about the half damage of purposeful or malicious damage? Okay, Rav. Now there's a famous machlokas. Rav says akula. Rav says when we said you're exempt on both. You're exempt on eating normally and even eating abnormally. My time. What do you mean? Why should we exempt on eating abnormally? It's damage like goring. Well, if he damages the garment, etc., why should he be exempt? The answer is like this: incredible. He says, why? Call him a shana. Okay, anybody who acts abnormally in the public domain, and then somebody came and did an abnormal damage, the animal like goring to him. Potter, the damager is exempt. Why is that? Because we consider it's abnormal. Why is that? Because we say if you act abnormally in the public domain, you are the inviter of the damage. So therefore, what this? Who told you to put down your coat in the public domain? Well, it doesn't belong there. So since you did it abnormally, you consider like you damaged yourself. That's it. Call him a shana. Anybody who behaves abnormally, you did what you weren't supposed to do in the public domain. Okay, and somebody else did a damage normally considered damage, even though you're right that animal damaged your coat, but you damaged yourself. Who told you to put your coat in the public domain? It's not for you to put your coat down.
In English, it's called contributory negligence.
Contributory negligence. Good. Okay. So that's wrong. Huh?
Sure. It's the event.
Well, I'm not sure I'm not.
Person. It's the event. He put his coat in the middle.
Whoever does it.
Yeah, you put your coat in the middle of the street, a car's going to run over.
The pashtus. Okay. Shmuel says no. He doesn't agree with this principle. Why? He says that you're making a mistake. The only case that you're exempt on was the case that we thought was only on the produce. Okay. But of course, if it damaged, if it ate in the public domain, you're stuff to pay what? Just like the law of goring, I have for full damages as it applies. Now, and therefore, what he rejects this idea of anybody who changed, the other person is exempt. He says not so. Reish Lakish also held like Rav, like the first opinion, that if the first guy did something, behaved abnormally, he's responsible for his own damage. Okay, Rakula, he says it goes on both. Now, the only thing is like this. Reish Lakish why did Reish Lakish follow what Rav said? Reish Lakish says here, I'll show you that he holds this principle that when you act strangely, you're responsible. If there are two cows in the public domain, one is crouched down on the ground and one is walking. If the one that was walking kicked, which is malicious damage you have to pay for, as goring, Patura, it's still exempt. Why is that? Because we're saying that the animal that's sitting there, it didn't belong there sitting in the public domain, and therefore he invited the damage, and therefore the damage he doesn't pay. Yeah, that's another problem. It's a big problem, right? Tosas speaks about it. I think other people. But if the one that's sitting kicks the one that's walking, you have to pay. Why? Because the one who's walking didn't do anything bad, and it's strange, and they have to pay for damage. Now, the only thing is like this. So up until now, what? So we have machlokas. We had a machlokas of Rav and Shmuel, and we saw the Reish Lakish holds like Rav. Rabbi Yochanan says something. Lo shanu Okay, Ella Peres Rokas. He also said what? That the only time that you're exempt in the public domain is on the produce. Avotsus v'kelim chayeves. Now, but for the animal eating the garment or the utensils, you have to pay. Then that seems like it follows Rav. Okay, it seems like it follows Rav. Now remember, this is an Amora. Lema Rabbi Yochanan. Should I say Rabbi Yochanan less lay the Reish Lakish? Afilu b'shtei paros. Should I say that he disagrees with Reish Lakish even when it came to the case of the two cows? In other words, does he really? No. The question is like this: what Rabbi Yochanan said, is he really agreeing with Rav or not? That's the real question. If you think of the way I'm saying, it's going to be easier. That's the real question. Is he really a Rav man? Does he really say, what, anytime you change, you're responsible or not? In other words, therefore what? Okay? In other words, pardon me, I'm sorry, I said the wrong way. He says, is he really a Shmuel man or not? Okay, is he really a Shmuel man or not? Does he not hold the idea that the one who changes is responsible? So they say less lay Reish Lakish and Filu b'shtei paros. I know that he doesn't agree with Reish Lakish in the Mishnah because he holds like Shmuel in the Mishnah, and therefore what, the person is exempt is exempt on eating those things in the public domain, even though the guy who left his coat acted abnormally. Mer says no. He says no. Don't worry. He's not completely in disagreement. Laolam Islay. Okay, he really holds Reish Lakish's case when it comes to the two cows. Okay, Abdi Inshi the Manche Glimi. And the real truth is, you thought he held like Rav. He doesn't really hold like Rav. He thought he holds like Shmuel. Pardon me. He doesn't really hold like Shmuel. What he said in the Mishnah was really because he agrees with Rav the other way. He really agrees with Rav. Whatever changes is responsible. But he says it's normal for people to put down their coat and to take a rest. So now, to explain it simply, we thought when he said that you are exempt on the coat, we thought he's a Shmuel man, and he holds that changers are not bringing about their own damage. We said no, he's really a Rav man, but he happens to disagree in one particular case. Really, he holds that a guy who acts abnormally invites his own damage and can't get paid. But he happens to hold that putting your coat down is not considered acting abnormally. It's normal for people to put their coat down in the public domain. I hope I said that correctly. If I did, you'll correct me. Okay, now we got a gigantic. Imdenes, we said in the Mishnah, if the animal got benefit, okay, Mishnah Lemes, it has to pay what it got benefit. Now, what does that mean simply? We said, you're right. Let's say we know that eating in the public domain is exempt. However, he still got benefit from somebody. We have a rule: when you get benefit from somebody, you have to pay them. So what? So this guy, listen, he ate. Let's say he had expensive stuff, okay, and he usually feeds his animal cheap stuff. So you can't make him pay for that stuff. He can't make him pay because in the public domain eating is not a problem. But he did get value. If he was going to feed his animal a kilo, let's say a belly full, and he got a belly full of expensive food, he still saved the belly full of cheap food. So maybe he should still have to pay for the belly full of cheap food that he didn't have to give his animal. So now the only question is, how do I? Which belly full? Which menu do you go according to? Each individual guy. What happens? What's called benefiting? The comma. So this we have an argument. Rav Amar to me Omer. Rav says, look, it's the cheapest stuff, straw. The cheapest stuff you can find. That's what he said. A belly full of straw. Okay. Rav Amar says no. The Mesorim Bezol. No, you have to say what? Sorry, barley is the fitting. Barley is considered the normal food for cow. Now, barley is more expensive than straw. He's a cheapskate. But everybody, even a straw guy, even a cheap guy, would rather feed his cow barley if he could afford it. So once in a while, barley's cheaper. But what's on sale? If it's one third less than the normal price, even cheap guys buy barley. Cheap guys feed their cows straw, let's say, okay? But even cheap guys, if they can get barley at a bargain, they'll feed it. So the first opinion is what? It's always the cheap thing. The second opinion is what? No, it's the discounted price.
The standard.
Yeah. Is the cheap one. Yeah. And the second, no. The first,
Barley is cheaper than this.
yeah. I'm saying the cheap. No. I'm not saying the other way. He'll pay for better stuff if it's cheaper than normal. He'll pay for the barley because what? Because he can get it for cheap. So even the cheap guy will pay for barley. So now, all right, now let's take a look. So which is it? So Tiny Kavase, the Rabbah, we have an opinion like what? We have an opinion. We find a brisa that supports Rabbah that's the price of straw, and we have a brisa that supports Rabbah that it's barley at the cheap price. Tiny, which is good stuff. Tiny Kavase, the Rabbah, we learn like Rabbah, okay, because we learn Rabbi Shimba Yocha Omer, Eimashal Lemes Ela Dmei Omer. Okay, he said what? That you only pay the price of straw, bilvad, okay, and you don't pay for barley. Tani Kavasi, the Rabba said no. We learn another way in a different place. He says imnenes b'shalemes mashenenes. We said that if the animal, even though it's exempt on the for the eating, it still has to pay for what it got benefit. Ketzad ochla kavu kabai, and let's say it ate 1 or 2 kav of what of barley. Ain't no to shalom the He doesn't have to pay for the price of barley. Ela omdim kama other motzah achilabemto. We see what we see how much a guy would have. It's not even what it ate. We see how much he would have fed his animal because maybe he ate twice. It might have eaten twice the amount that he would have fed it. That's not the point. We see how much he would have fed his animal, and also something that is fitting for it. Okay, which is what? It has to be barley. It's something fitting, even though he's not accustomed to doing that. No, even though he does, it's fitting to feed it barley. He doesn't usually feed it barley, but he would feed it barley if he could get it for cheap. Therefore, achal chitin or dabar arala, and therefore the other way. Let's say they ate things that are bad for it. Wheat is apparently no good for it. Something that's bad, paturi. Therefore, then you're exempt because what? You're not getting any benefit at all. Okay, so we found both. Amelie, now get ready. Get ready. This is the gigantic. Okay, this is a gigantic argument, and that is. He said, last night on Friday night, you weren't in the tchum close enough to get to us to hear our wonderful discussion. We had a wonderful query. Okay, Omar, what was that? Knew what was the wonderful thing that you spoke about, that you were in doubt about. Omar Lay says, a guy lives in his friend's courtyard without his permission, okay, or without his knowledge, meaning what? So, yes. They have to pay rent or not. So he says to Mukhman, what kind of question is that? That's a pretty obvious problem. Hey, what's the case? If this courtyard is not for rent, the guy doesn't intend to rent it, and the person who squatted there, like you say, or lives there, he doesn't need it. He has his own place to live, and he doesn't need a place to live. So it's a guy who doesn't need to rent. He's not renting, and this guy doesn't need to rent. This guy's not getting any benefit because he has his own house. And this guy's not losing anything because he didn't want to rent the place. Elamai, what you doubt? The courtyard was up for rent. The Megar, and it's a person who wants to rent the place. So this guy's getting benefit, and this guy's losing. Obviously, he has to pay. Says no, here's where the query was. The owner is not out to rent this place. He doesn't want to rent it. The Gavra, the Ovid the Mega, but the squatter, he wants to rent the place. Okay, now, so this guy's benefiting, but this guy's not losing. Matzi Amarle, okay, my chasatich. So can the squatter say, listen, you didn't lose anything, you never intended to do it. Oh, Dilma, perhaps the other way. Matzi Amar, the owner can still say to him, how you sign it, you got benefit. So the question is, when a guy gets benefit without the other guy losing, normal transactions, I benefit, you lose, so we pay. But if I benefit without you losing, one guy gets benefit, the other guy lost nothing, does he have to pay? Well, maybe I don't have to pay when the other guy loses, but if I gain and he lost nothing, why should I pay him? This is a massive, famous argument. Amar Leis, he said to him, Masnisani, this is incredible. He said, what do you mean? That's a Mishnah. So he says, hi Masnisan, which Mishnah is it? He said to him, he says, first do a service for me. Do something for me before I'll tell you the answer. You have to serve me. So he said, so what did he do? So Shakal, so Rav Chama, so Rav Chisda, Shakal Sudre, so Rav Chisda took the scarf of Rav Chama Karchle and he folded it up for him. And then only answered. So why do you only answer it? So many people speak, but the way I was taught younger, and this is Rav Shimon, the point is like this: at a certain point, if the student, in general, students do serve their teachers, they attend to them, but one of the things, if he doesn't, he won't appreciate what he's about to hear. If he doesn't get into the right relationship with the teacher, he won't appreciate what he's about to hear. And now once he did it, he's in the right relationship. He tells him. Amarle says to him, I can speak for an hour. I'm not going to. Amarle said to him, he says, I'll tell you which mission it is that I can prove the point. When a guy gets benefit without the other person losing, okay, I'll show you that you have to pay. Why? Because we said in our Mishnah, "Im nenes b'shalemes mashnenes." Now, this is a very delicate point. I want to explain. What does it mean? He's saying, listen, this guy, it's true that his animal got a belly full of stuff. But if you look at the case of the Mishnah, what's the case? What's the case? He is exempt for eating in the public domain. So the way we're looking at it now, if you're exempt for the eating, okay, and you have to pay for what you benefit, that's the equivalent of saying that the owner of the produce lost nothing. Why? Because the eater was exempt for eating. So essentially he lost nothing. Okay. Nevertheless, he has to pay what he benefited. So you see that if you benefit without causing the other person a loss, you have to pay. Now watch. Amar Rava. So Rava said in shock, hearing what I just said, he didn't like it. He said, what he says, people who God likes, who take care of this guy doesn't trouble himself, doesn't feel it. He doesn't even bother, okay, to understand that what he said is not a proof. Why? The because what the heck happened over here? He said, what happened over here? Even though what? He says the question of Rav Chizda has nothing to do with our Mishnah. Why? Okay, Kiblamine. Nevertheless, Rav Chizda accepted Rami Bar Chama's answer. Rami Bar Chama mamish missed the point. What are you talking about? How could Rami Bar Chama have learned that our Mishnah was a case of one guy benefiting with the other guy losing? He says, "Hi, so that's a case of this guy gaining and the other guy lost. He lost his produce. They got a kilo of apples and he ate it. What are you talking about? Of course he lost. Okay, now I explain to you why. Okay, okay. He says, and the case of Rav Chisda, the question was when the other guy didn't lose. Now remember, the question is what I just told you. In other words, according to Rami Bar Chama, the fact that he's exempt for the payment for eating is the equivalent of saying we're really saying that the owner of the produce lost nothing because he had no rights to the produce that was eaten. So, but of course, but he's saying no, it's not true. He lost the actual produce. What are you talking about? Okay.
One was the case where I thought it was reading. Somebody moved into somebody else's apartment.
Oh, you're ahead of me. We're about to get there. You're ahead of me.
We're still talking.
You're ahead of me. We're just talking about the Mishnah. We're just talking about the Mishnah. Okay, now, okay, we're Rami Bar Chama. So then what did Rami Bar Chama think? Okay, he has an incredible idea. Why does he believe in the end what's correct? Why is it correct to say that the person is not losing in the Mishnah? Rami Bar Chama, because he's saying what? He says, Stam Peiros B'Shus Rabim, okay, or at least how
apples full of
yeah,
you don't stop
yeah. You know, actually, I said we have to say we have to talk about who is the person who doesn't notice what they're saying, but that's not the point, okay? And there's maybe on Rav Chisda. Rav Chisda didn't notice. Okay, but that's not the point. Rami Bar Chama, okay. So what did Rami Bar Chama think? Stam Peiros B'Shus Rab Makuim Afkalim. The normal when a person puts produce in the public domain, he makes it ownerless. Now, slow down. If it's ownerless, why should he get paid? So you have to. It's like this. A person. The other case, I just to clarify, we have to discuss when I double back. You have to see who is it that wasn't sensitive over there. The questioner or the answer. Okay, we'll see. But back here, he said, Rami Bar Chama, he says, what does he think? When a guy puts his produce in the public domain, he knows it's going to get destroyed. He's essentially resigned to the fact that he's going to lose. But here's the point. If that's true, so then why should he get paid? It's ownerless. Why is he getting paid? The answer is, my humble opinion, it's like this. He is resigned to the fact that he's going to lose it. And when he loses it, he lost it. You understand? On the other hand, so long as he hasn't lost it yet, okay, it's still his stuff. Okay, it's still his stuff. So really what he's saying, it's essentially, he's not losing because he was going to lose it anyway. He's not losing because losing anyway. But still, and therefore what? It's really considered not losing because he was going to lose it anyway. But what? But you still have to pay him because it's still his until it's lost. That's how I understand it. Okay, Tanan. Okay, so we're up in the air. This is a world-shaking question. When a person benefits without the other person losing, does he have to pay? Tanan we learned, so we can't prove it. Tanan we learned. Now this is also one of the biggest arguments in history. You can see a diagram on your page. If a guy's field surrounds his friend's field on three sides, so the outer guy surrounds his friend, the inner guy on three sides. Okay, and the outer guy put a fence between him and the inner guy, between him and the inner guy on three sides. Okay, We don't make the inner guy pay for the benefit that he got of his fields being fenced in. Okay. Oh, but we say what? But we say, but we can infer revius. But once the outer guy puts a fence fence around all four sides, then we make the inner guy pay. Okay, further before he puts the four side, the inner guy says, "Listen, I don't get any benefit. My fields are open to the public domain." But once he puts it on fours, he has to pay. That's what we understand. Shmami no. From here we can hear zeneh. Okay, the zelo chaser. This guy, the insider guy, is getting benefit, and the outsider guy, is not losing because he wanted to make the partition between himself and the guy anyway. Okay, he wanted to do it anyway. Nevertheless, he has to pay. Maya says no. He says Shani Asim, it's not true. Why? He does lose. Why? He says Ad Garamtali. He says, what do you mean? He says, in addition to my fence on the outside of my field, you're the one who made me put the fence on the inside of the field to separate between me and you. You don't go looking at my property. And therefore, what he says really. So therefore, he says he was a loser. We thought it's a case of him not losing. It's a case of him losing. So the question is still up in the air. When one guy benefits and the other guy didn't lose, does he have to pay? Toshma Rabbi Yossi said, in Ahmad Nika Pagadar Servias, he says if the inside we learn the following. The Mishnah continues, and Rabbi Yossi is of a different opinion. He says, Imam Nika Pagadar Servias, if the insider guy got up himself and fenced in the four side, he put up one side. Magagul of Sokol, we make him now join and pay for the other three, his portion of the other three fences. Now we see what, according to that opinion, time at the God Nika. The only reason he has to pay for the other three sides is once he put in the fourth side, he shows that he wants it. But according to him, if the outside guy did the fourth side putter, he's exempt. So you see that what? So it must be what? It must be why doesn't he pay? Because the outsider guy didn't lose anything, and yet the outsider guy doesn't lose anything. So you see what? So there we see clearly a proof that if one guy doesn't lose and the other guy benefits, he doesn't have to pay. Shmamino, like I'm just spell it out. From here we hear Zen and Abazelo Chasa Pater. If this one benefit, even though the other guy didn't lose, he's exempt. And the other guy he doesn't exempt. Not all, even though he doesn't exempt. Mar says no. Even there, it doesn't prove the point. Shani Asam. You know why? Okay, he doesn't have to pay if the other guy did all four, according to what Yossi said. He said the only because he can say the truth is, okay, you know what? I owe you a penny. Okay, because you're right. I benefit, but I would have put up the cheapest thing. I would have put up junk. Yes, I would have done it for $1. So it's not right. It's not. It's not that he does have to pay for his benefit, but his benefit is minimal and not the price of the fence. Again,
but there he would have to pay.
Yeah, he paid a penny. He'll pay him a buck. Yeah, I'll pay him a buck. But the point is what we still haven't proven our point. So we're saying really he does what he does pay. We could say that he does pay, even though. He does pay what he benefited, and therefore, what when we say he doesn't pay, it's because he really didn't get any benefit. He didn't need what the guy did. So we were still up in the air. You have to pay when you got benefit when the other guy didn't lose. Tashma, come up, bring your proof. Two guys have a house. They have a condo, okay, but it's a 2-story condo with 2 apartments. One guy owns downstairs and one guy owns upstairs, okay. Januflu, and the whole house fell down. The upstairs and the downstairs. Amar Balaliyah, so the guy who owns the upstairs condo, he says, La Bala he says to the downstairs condo guy, build your house because I have rights to build on top. But who in a road to the downstairs guy doesn't want to build? Hari Balaliyah, we learned in the Mishnah, Habayis Vyoshim. So the upstairs guy builds the downstairs and lives in it. He lives in the downstairs until the downstairs guy pays him for his expenses. Okay, if you're building the downstairs house, and then he'll go and build the upstairs. Now you notice what does the downstairs guy have to pay the upstairs guy when he built the downstairs? Yitziosav. He only has to pay him what? He only has to pay him for the expenses that he built his house for him. Okay, who the Mechayev Leibal Bais? That's what the downstairs guy owns the upstairs guy for building the downstairs. Hascharo, but he has to pay, but the rent that's due to him from the upstairs guy living the downstairs, Hascharo low, he's not allowed to claim back what? The rent that the upstairs guy should pay him for living in his downstairs house that he's about to pay for. Okay. Shmaminoff. From here we hear that what? That even though what the downstairs guy was living there rent free. Okay, he lived there and he didn't have to pay rent. He's exempt. What? So you see what? That since what? Because what? Since the other guy didn't want to build a house anyway, So he's living there, and the other guy's not losing, and even though he gained free rent, he doesn't have to pay him. Okay, Moshe says, nah. He says, that's ridiculous. That's not true. It's really what it could really be. What that when a guy gets benefit without the other guy losing, he has to pay. You know why he doesn't have to pay here? Really, he should have to pay, but you know why he doesn't pay? Shani awesome because the different reasons. Because he had rights. Right, the baseline, the downstairs was always subjugated to the upstairs. And therefore, what he is right to say, listen, buddy, I'm not paying you anything. You were supposed to build it downstairs. You didn't build it. I'm living there. I have to pay you rent. You understand? You were supposed to have the downstairs there for me to live upstairs. I'm paying myself rent. You understand? I'm not paying you. Okay, Toshma. Okay, so again, we're still up in the air. We don't know if you get benefit without the losing, you have to pay. Okay, Toshma, huh? Yeah, Toshma, exactly. What he's supposed to live in. What he's supposed to do? Live in midair. Okay, Toshma. So he says, "Come, I'll bring you." The Mishnah continues. Rabbi Yehuda says, "What? No, even the guy, when the upstairs guy lives in, it says chotzer, but it means even when the upstairs guy lives in the downstairs guy's house, okay, without his knowledge, so he does have to pay him. He has to pay him rent, even though the downstairs guy is not losing anything, okay, because he didn't want to build it. He does have to pay him that. So no, according to Rabbi Yehuda, according to that opinion, he says that's pay him. And then you see clearly, according to that opinion, even though the downstairs guy didn't want to build, and the upstairs guy, nevertheless, the upstairs guy has to pay him rent for living in the downstairs. So you see, even though the downstairs guy didn't lose, you have to pay. But says no, it doesn't prove it either. Even according to that, why? Shani Yosem, it's different. Why? Mishum shecharisha. You know why he's paying him? Because he's still damaging the downstairs. When you take a new house and you live in it, you have a fireplace, you're still darkening the walls with the soot of the fireplace. So there's wear and tear. So he still has to pay him, right? And therefore, what he has to. Okay, so really, what the downstairs guy is losing. So it's not that it's not that he's paying him without the losing. He's really losing. So the question is still up in the air. Shalchua Bei Rabbi Ami. So they sent this question, the question of Rechista, when you have to pay when the other guy doesn't lose and you benefited. They sent to Bei Rabbi Ami. They sent it to Yeshiva Rabbi Ami. Okay, Amar. So he said to him, he said, look, what did he do to him? And what did he cause him to lose? My Ezekiel, what did he damage him? Okay, therefore, you're right. He doesn't have to pay. If the other guy didn't lose, you don't have to pay. When they sent to Bechir Ba'aba, Amar says this Yashibadam. He said, I need to think about it. So later on, they sent them again. They sent them the same question again. Amar says, why are they going on? Keep sending me the same question over and over again. He said, if I figured out a reasoning to answer it, what do they keep asking me? I would have answered it. Rav Kahana, Itmar, we learned. Rav Kahana, Amar Rav Yochanan. Okay, he said that when it came to the question of when a guy got benefit and the other guy didn't lose, he says you do not have to pay the guy. Rabbi Abba and Rabbi Yochanan says you do have to. So you see here that the Moraim are arguing about Rabbi Yochanan's opinion. Now, you know what? And this is a good stopping place. And we'll continue tomorrow. I'm sorry I left you in a query that I just realized. I'll straighten out and bring it my own mind. I'll fix that last part tomorrow. The previous part.
This piece.
Huh? Yeah.
You're going in the floor. I want to use your parking spot.
Right.
So that's a genuine case of Zen.
No, exactly.
But if I don't put it there, if I have to rent a garage, then I'm getting the cash value of the garage that I don't have to pay.
Right, exactly.
I mean, I try always to with the.
They give real examples. Yeah.
But I try to modernize the case.
It's good.
The apples fell off the truck. So obviously he's not going to stop in the middle of the superhighway. He's going to.
That's a good point. Yeah, no, I agree. That's a good point.
I always use modern examples.
It's a good point. It's a good example. It's a good example. Good morning, my friend.
I had a big house in Long Beach on the main corner. I had a big house on the main corner near, a block from the block. Yeah. So people would park in my driveway.
Yeah.
So I put up 4 cars in my